Welcome back to Weems Motor Co. Today we're gonna dig into that front end. Stick around. Alright, so in the last episode of us working on this 1950 Triumph, we discovered that one of the dampeners in the front end was broken, and I had to source a new one. Luckily, I was able to find one from my good friends over in St. Petersburg, Florida, MAP Cycles. They happen to have one of the dampener bottoms in, but discovering something as I went through and further disassembled it was the dampening rod that connects from the fork cap nut all the way down to the bottom was snapped off. Now, they don't make these anymore, but that just means I have to make one. We're gonna have to go over to the lathe and machine one out, and as we do that, discover that there are some intricacies about these old British motorcycles. One of those being, we've talked about it before, is that a lot of the hardware on these are what's called Whitworth. Your standard wrenches, your metric wrenches, none of those tools will work on these. You have to have Whitworth tools. Well, in addition to Whitworth heads of bolts, you have different threads, different thread pitches. So like metric and standard taps and dies will not work on these old British bikes. You have to have additional ones. You have to have Whitworth thread taps. You have to have British standard fine threads. And then with this particular one being so old, it actually uses what's called BSC. That's Bravo Sierra Charlie BSC threads, which means British Standard Cycle threads. Now, they don't, well, they make them. I don't have those taps and dies, but luckily my old lathe from 1942 has the settings on it so we can actually cut those threads, being 5/16 by 26 threads per inch. So we're gonna have to make that rod over on the lathe, get that done. But something else I did notice as I was inspecting this front end is that there's a space right here, and if you look really closely underneath that top triple tree, there's probably about a 3/4 space there. I don't know why it is that way. Maybe they were trying to lower the front end 3/4 of an inch. It's not right. So what we're gonna do is actually disassemble these fork tubes, get them out of that triple trees, and so we can lower that down. We're gonna go ahead and pull the triple trees out of the neck, make sure that those bearings are good in there, repack them with grease, so that we can make sure that this bike is good to go, good to ride for the Georgia Grundle Run. And you see there's still not a motor in there, and we got a little bit of work to do to get this bike going, but the most important thing is to go through everything with it, and that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna strip this front end down. We're gonna get those bearings checked out. We're gonna make that rod for the front end and reassemble this and get that front wheel back on it so we can have this back into a roller. Enough talking. Let's get to work. Now that we got that taken care of, I just wanted to remind you guys, this is the very last week that we are doing our Patreon giveaway. Every person that signs up for our Patreon receives a free sticker pack, and if you jump over to the website, do an order for cool t-shirts like this or hats like this, you are going to get a free sticker pack thrown into your orders. All right, now it's time to do some fabrication. So here's the situation. This is our dampener rod that came out of the bike that was broken. If you notice right there at the very end, it is sheared off. Well, we had this little piece of
threaded thing on the end of it that went right there, and then the opposite end is also threaded for the fork cap nut. So we got to recreate this out of a raw piece of material, and we got to cut some threads on there using the old South Bend 13-inch lathe. We're gonna do some threads at this end, got to trim it off, do some smaller threads at the other end. All machinist stuff. Luckily, our old South Bend lathe is set up to run that 26 threads per inch pattern that we need to cut these. So, without further ado, let's get to machining.
Alright, so as it's been with this motorcycle, there's always issues. It's missing a part. This little round dampener tube goes over that rod we just made, and it wasn't in there. I don't know if somebody had left it out when they rebuilt the front end before, but we're just gonna have to take the one from the other side, which is this one, measure the dimensions, and then make a new one on the lathe. Let's knock it out. As you can see, all the parts are cleaned, everything is ready to go, assembled, and get back onto the Judge so we can get this bike back into a rolling configuration. It's a lot of work working on these old Triumphs, these old motorcycles, but it is a labor of love that we love to do. So, keeping with our theme, trying to keep all of that patina, we went through, we cleaned up some things. There's still pits all over the chrome. But I did take off that surface rust so it doesn't look like it's, brown. So, we got everything cleaned up. Let's throw it back on the frame. Let's get this thing in a rolling configuration. And let's get this bike going. Let's do it. Alright, before we start finishing up assembling that bottom portion of the forks, I just wanted to take a quick moment and show you guys something cool. Now, as years go by, technology improves, you have different things when it comes to dampening systems and fork sills on motorcycles. But on this 1950 Triumph, we have some old rudimentary technology on it, which is really cool. I like old stuff. I like how I can look and see how the things used to work and how they've improved on it. With modern motorcycles, you have things like this, like rubber fork sills that go in and press in and work fantastic. They keep that fork oil down in the bottom of the fork where it's supposed to be. But on this particular Triumph, we have what's called a felt fork sill system. Yeah, you heard that right. It's literally a piece of felt that gets wrapped around the fork like that, and it's supposed to seal it. I think it works more as a scraper. So essentially you have a little rubber O-ring. Well, it's not even rubber, this is foam also. Foam O-ring at the top. Then you have your fork sill cup, which is where that fork sill, that felt goes inside of this. And it goes in just like that. And it works up and down on your forks and essentially keeps the fork oil in the bottom of the forks. Like I said, it's more like a scraper. So just wanted to show you that old technology. Super cool. We're gonna go ahead and throw those onto the bike, and we're gonna get this bike into a roller by getting that front wheel on there. Let's knock it out. Thing to do, get this wheel mounted up. Let's knock it out. And just like that, we have one rebuilt Triumph front end ready to rock and roll. Get this thing down on the ground. Super stoked about it. Just wanted to say thank you to all of our patrons and all of you guys hanging out. Don't forget, this is the last time to sign up for that Patreon and the website purchase giveaways. So with that, we're gonna wrap up today's video. Thank you guys for hanging out. If you are new around here, jump down and hit that subscribe button. If you really like the video, hit that thumbs up, turn those notifications on, and let everyone know what's going on right here at Weems Motor Co. Peace.